wish the heart attack on Burn Dog.
Wow, I didn't hear about that.
Really?
No, I did not.
Burn Dog had a heart attack.
Oh boy. Well,
yeah.
That's it for him.
Well,
I mean, not in that bad way.
Well, yeah.
Everybody's gonna think I'm meaning it that way, but I don't mean like that. I mean like as in nobody's gonna want to vote for him.
Well,
like,
you'd hope. I mean, he's still.
You want him to be okay, but I think, as in running wise, I think that's it.
I know, man.
Heart attack is not a good
guy
thing.
in their he's there. He's there at the debate tonight.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, I know, man, but.
That's not he lost some cool points with me with that one.
I sure hope so. It's not like
I like Bird Dog, man, but I don't know.
You just
man.
like him because he plays basketball.
Yeah, he was hooping. And just so everybody knows, she called him Bird Dog first, dude. She was the one that started the cool name.
I invented that. So
she is the originator of Bird Dog.
I should go down and
She should. From now on, I call him Bird Dog. I don't even call him Bernie no more. It's kind of funny. It's like if anybody says Bird Dog, I know who they're talking about.
Yeah.
If you say Bernie, I might think, oh, okay, I remember who he is.
Yeah. But what was also sad is that right while this was happening, his daughter-in-law died.
Do you think that's maybe why he had his heart attack? No.
No, it was after.
It was after. Oh
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. She was just in her 40s or something.
Dude, this is
yeah, I would just think like, dude, your family needs you. I mean, your family needs you alive. But I don't know. But the thing about somebody dying like that, it also just kind of proves what I do believe is that you need to just do what you want to do. And that age, it's one thing if you have a heart attack, but I mean, age isn't a reason to disqualify someone.
Yeah. Having a heart attack is a good thing.
Well,
that's a lot of stress as a president.
Well, yeah.
That's like you kind of, even the same thing with like football players and boxers.
Yeah.
There's players that come from college and they find out like, they have heart murmurs or heart. Dude, it's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not the same feeling when you want to choose the guy. Even though I get it, it shouldn't make a difference. Yeah. But there's players that had issues. We had a guy, DJ Hayden, that was a corner for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Like about, I think in 2016 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe 15, 16 around that time. And he had an issue with his heart. And they literally had to have heart surgery. Now, he played for us still. But you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a weird feeling that you'd have known that he didn't have a heart issue. He didn't have a heart attack, but he took a hit in college and it messed him up. It's just like,
I don't know.
It's not the same feeling.
I guess so. I mean, a young college guy having a heart incident and going on, I feel that's different to me.
No, it's not different to me. Especially in football.
Well, what's he supposed to do? Just give up?
You don't give up, but I'm saying as a fan,
just go find
as a person, you kind of feel weird about it. Like, when someone has to do something stressful, going to the army, being a president, playing, like, professional sports, then you have sickness wrong with you, it's a different feeling. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I get it, they want to keep playing, but it's behind your mind that, this guy has an issue. What if he takes a hit again?
Young like that and you've been going for something for years, I don't know. I don't.
There was a player that died years ago, early 2000s.
Oh, I hear about. I hear about young guys dying all the time.
It's just a hard feeling, man. And Bernie, and on top of that, like you said, Bernie's a little bit older. He's not a college guy, so that makes it even worse.
Well, yeah. I mean, the odds just keep going.
I would be kind of heated if he was president and he started getting into it with Kim Jong-il or something, and then he's just like,
Bernie can't keep his fucking temper. I don't like that about him.
Yeah, when he was in maybe that's his problem. Maybe
I think that's one of his problems. Oh man! And then poor old Hunter Biden was interviewed today.
Oh boy.
Oh man! See, people have been saying all these things about him, and Trump's saying he's crooked, and the guy has a substance abuse problem. He's been in lots of treatment programs for substances, and So getting this sort of pressure is going to be really hard for somebody to keep their sobriety. And, he's had a hard life. He's had a lot of, but anyway, so I watched him be interviewed today, and I was almost like, man, dude, are you high? I mean, like, you need some media training. Or maybe the problem was that he's not able to take any, like, I don't know, man. Because he was not smooth in the interview. He really wasn't. It was a bad call for them to do it. So, I don't know. Poor guy. See, I can just kind of, like, in a much smaller level, I can relate to him because my dad's a hotshot and my older brother's the golden boy. So, in a very, very small level, I kind of relate to him, man. So, damn. And he just married somebody that he's known for a week, and that's just kind of crazy behavior. So, he's already kind of nuts, and then you're going to be hearing all this criticism from people all over the country and the stress. And, it's got to be really stressful to know that, even though he says his dad loves and supports him, which I'm sure is true, I mean, knowing that you could, derail something like this would be really, really stressful. And, okay, well, meanwhile, what the fuck in Syria? Okay? Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the world is just going to shit with the Kurds.
Yes, it's going crazy.
That's just crazy, man. I could hardly. It's definitely, and that's one of those things that happens all the time. Like, you should know. You see something in the news, like, what? He's pulling out of Syria. I mean, like, did I see that? Like, that's what with Trump, you're always like, wait, did he really do that? Like, of course,
right.
It's not like it's always true. But, I mean, it's really complicated. The United States and the Kurds have a very complicated history, but the Kurds have fought against the Syrians. They basically were fighting, like, for the U.S., and the U.S. was supposed to stick around and help them out. And so the Kurds are, again, there's Kurds. They're like other nations that are, they don't have a state, so they're part of different governments. So there's Kurds in Turkey, there's Kurds in Syria and in Iraq. So, and there's been a separatist movement in Turkey for a very long time. So the U.S. said that they're pulling out. So Turkey starts going in there, attacking the Kurds. And they already, like, I'm not sure if this is verified, but it's already apparent that a prison shut down, that they, like, liberated a prison, so now all these ISIS people that were in the prison are out, and it's just awful. You read interviews with anonymous military people that are just saying they feel terrible. They're supposed to be there. I mean, it would just suck to be in the military, and that you certainly, there's a lot of dumb things they get sent to do, but protecting the Kurds who have been helping the U.S. so much, I mean, that would feel like a very important and worthwhile thing to be doing. And they fought alongside each other, so you have that bond. Right. So that is just absolutely crazy. So now Putin is over there, and because he's buddies with Bashar al-Assad, so he's there stirring up stuff. And then after Trump did this, he now said, okay, he, like, yanked out the military that was helping the Kurds, so Turkey started attacking the Kurds. So now Trump said that he's going to impose sanctions against Turkey because they're attacking the Kurds. And it's just crazy because you look at the United States military that just has so much equipment and skills. It's not like, I mean, they're not fighting a war there anymore so much. It's like they're there to maintain order. They're there to kind of keep stuff from erupting. And I mean, Obama pulled out of Iraq at that. Actually, it's shit, man. Obama pulled out of Iraq when he was running for a second term because he wanted to say he'd brought our soldiers home. And I think that's what Trump is doing by getting our soldiers out of Syria. But what happened with Obama doing that is the rise of ISIS.
Right.
And so, particularly since, as I keep saying, ISIS has not gone anywhere. They're an ideology. There's plenty of them, and they have all their blueprints. They can just get right back in there. And Bashar al-Assad is still a psychopath. So, it's just extremely fucked up. And Turkey is supposed to be an ally of the United States. So it's not a good place to impose sanctions on. The United States is supposed to stay buddy-buddy with Turkey because of the strategic importance, because so the U.S. can keep military bases there. So there's that craziness. And meanwhile, there's the whistleblower. So supposedly the whistleblower is somebody who is from the State Department. And it's always been thought that people who work in the State Department are good candidates to be whistleblowers because they're not necessarily political appointees at all. I mean, they serve in different administrations, and their job is to try and represent. They work for the United States. They don't work for presidents. Well, some of them do, but...
Yeah, but I don't think they'll ever... They keep trying, but I just have this odd feeling that they will never, ever impeach.
I think you're right.
Trump. I think it's just...
Yeah.
It's getting to this point to where it's like, really, just...
Yeah, I think we need to beat him, not impeach him.
Just vote him out and let's go on. Because you guys aren't going to do anything to him now. Yeah. At least until he's, not president anymore. I just think it's just I don't know. I don't know what to call it, dude. It's just, every time I see it, there's a whistleblower. We found some stuff on Trump. And it's like, y'all don't have nothing.
The Mueller report couldn't do it. And they need to get... they need to get the political will. They need to get more Republicans on their side. And so, I mean, even Republicans now are saying that leaving Syria is madness and just a terrible thing to do to the Kurds. So, and besides, even if Trump is impeached, then we get Pence. And I think he'd be harder to beat than Trump. Because the evangelicals genuinely like him. They feel like he's one of them. And with Trump, they don't like him so much, but they feel like... See, the fucking evangelicals, they understand compromise. The left doesn't understand compromise. I mean, the evangelicals are willing to have somebody like Trump in office because he's going to further some of their gains, some of their goals. And... So, then I heard somebody pretty smart say over the weekend that he doesn't think the country's, and this was, so I had my event. Oh God, we haven't been here since I had my event.
Yeah, so how did it go? I was heated that I missed it. So, was there a lot of people like the last one?
Yeah.
Yes, nice.
Yeah. Not as many people, but see, I had, the problem, because they wouldn't let me do it as part of the film. See, when I did the event at the Empress before, it was part of the film club, so I had film club people and all these extra people that came in to see my show. But this wasn't the film club, and I just reminded myself, I was like, okay, and I kept saying this. I wasn't going to do anything for Ralph Bunche on my own because he's just too complicated. Not enough people know about. I knew I couldn't get in enough of a crowd till I found out Pastor Quick was a Bunche scholar. So I invited him, and so basically almost everybody that came was from the church.
Oh, gotcha.
And the NAACP.
Right. Okay.
So, my thing is, like, I'm happy with whomever comes. I mean, to me, it was like, I think there were almost 100 people, and to me,
that's not bad.
I think that's great. I think it's, like, really fucking...
Think of if you did it on a set normal basis, like you do it every year around the same time. You might start getting a lot of people.
Well, yeah. It's, I'm already thinking about doing it next year, because Ralph Bunche is because he part of it...
Consistency.
Yeah, well, just to get deeper into it, because with the film, part of the problem with the film is they had to edit. He's basically like, it's like trying to convey 3 or 4 people. He's just such a major force in the United States, and his personal story is extremely compelling. So that was... So for that event, Pastor Quick gave an introduction, and then he came up to speak afterward. I'm like, man, I swear, I always, working with a pastor was just great because because he can read a crowd. His whole job is connecting with people. So he got up at the end and he said he knows people are hungry, and he's like, I'm a Baptist preacher, I know people are hungry, and so he spoke brief. So he didn't speak long, but it was just absolutely amazing and brilliant. So that was the Empress Theater event. And then this past Saturday was the event at the Naval Historical Museum. And I had this professor coming up from Santa Cruz to speak. And it was pretty cool. We had his book at the bookstore here in town, and the thing with trying to promote the book was it's not a biography, it's about Ralph Bunche, and the book is called Ralph Bunche, Model Negro or American Other. So you're like, whoa. So, and if you so first off, I'm trying to, like, when I was trying to talk to people about the book, I'm like, okay, this is what the book's called. Okay, this is the title. But you're kind of, I don't like to tell people too much about stuff. I want them to get a fresh view.
Right.
So you're kind of giving away one of the major issues. You kind of, once you see the film, the title of the book makes sense. It actually starts out, what's funny, because Sidney Poitier is the narrator, and when somebody was testing out the sound, they like immediately recognized his voice, because it's the documentary starts off with Sidney Poitier and his Sidney Poitier. Well, to some people Ralph Bunche was this, to some he was that, and he says it right there. To some he was a model Negro. And so Ralph Bunche's story, he had like basic, so not only are you talking about all the stuff he did in his life, which was like enough for 3 people, you're talking about his story, you're talking about his life as an African American person, as somebody who came to the United States as part of who came to the West Coast as part of the Great Migration. So one of the things I've just said a lot about Ralph Bunche was that his life was really exceptional, but he also reminded me of people I know, because so that was a big issue about his life, is just the pressure he was under from people. And he was midway through his career, he worked for the OSS, which is the precursor to the CIA. And so Pastor Quick was talking about that. It was only a couple of years in his career, and I knew about it, but he really made me think about it a lot more, because he was saying that Ralph Bunche had knowledge that other people didn't have. And so when he started to work for the United Nations, he was in the position of people saying, like, you're not going fast enough, blah, blah, you're not doing enough. People, and people called him like a UT, and we're like initializing. My friend Brenda is like initializing that now, because I was like, wrote to her, I was like, so I was like, okay, cool, we can initialize that. So he had knowledge of that a lot of people didn't, because he'd been part of the CIA. And Pastor Quick said that he was probably like the only person you could really compare him to was like Colin Powell or Condoleezza Rice, so far as like any African American person being that close to the seat of power. He said he was the spy. He said he was the man by the door. I guess that's like a spy term, which I wasn't too familiar with. Right, so that was one of the things he was talking about, and that Bunchism is anti-Trumpism. So here we're getting to the real substance of it, and that's what I talked about also. That you need to be that now. You need to be able to talk with people you disagree with. And I mean, it's just going to keep Trump in office if we can't try and reach out and try to talk to each other. And fortunately, well, it was taped, it was filmed. So that's really cool. So I'll be able to watch it again. And, so it was a big thing to try and manage, because I had to yank one person off the stage because she was going on to, she was young. I was like, leave that in the film, so hopefully she'll look back on it and be embarrassed.
Oh, that's crazy.
I told her to be really, really brief. And I was like trying to get, so I had to like get up on the stage, and she was still talking with me on the stage. I was like, sorry, we need to keep going.
Well, that's good you're getting people, coming in and interested like that,
Oh no, she was like a presenter.
Oh,
she was a presenter.
Okay,
I had to yank off the stage because she went over time.
Dang.
Yeah. There's always some, and then the professor was supposed to do he was supposed to speak after the lunch, and we were going to record after the lunch, and I told him he could just take some questions after the film. And so he went up after the film, and I was almost thinking about doing the Q&A myself, but I was like, okay, wait, well, this expert is here, so I better have him do it. And so he came up and basically like went into the speech that he'd prepared. He said, like, well, before I take questions, I just want to make a few points to spark discussion. So he he went into his whole speech, which was about comparisons between Obama and Bunche. They both won the Nobel Peace Prize. And so so he was talking about that, and there had to be time for people to eat lunch, so I actually had to like cut him off so that people could go get something to eat before we started the afternoon session. I was like, man, it was just really complicated to try and work around.
So how easy is it for you to set up things like this? Is it pretty easy? Have you gotten used to it, or is it always some challenge to setting it up?
Oh, it's always a challenge. I mean, if it wasn't, yeah.
When we went last year, it was pretty nice. You got like food and it's like trippy. You do a pretty good job. I'm just, it seems like it.
Thanks.
It takes a while to get that.
Oh yeah. It does. It takes a lot. Yeah. It takes a lot of. Yeah. It's a lot of.
Yeah, you guys, if you haven't went to one of her shows, you got to check her out. I'm trying to talk her into doing it at least once every year.
Well, with the
depending, you have to change up who the show's on. But either way, trying to do
Bunche. Well, see, I've done the Bayard Rustin Symposium for 2 years, and I thought about doing it again, but I don't want to, because I felt like I feel like it didn't take on enough of a life of its own, because I want people. I was hoping people would contact me eventually and say, oh, hey, I have an idea for something to do at the Bayard Rustin Symposium. And that hasn't happened. And I spoke with somebody about moving it to the East Bay, and she asked around, and nobody was too interested in that.
Gotcha.
So what I'm going to do, what I'm thinking about doing, I said I would do it, is screen a film about Ida B. Wells, the journalist, and it's a film that's also by William Greaves, the filmmaker that did the Ralph Bunche film. Because I want to do something. I feel like I should do something about a woman.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and
that's why I think we should change it up. Like every year, do a different type of person.
Well, it has to be somebody that I'm really passionate about.
Right.
Like with Ida B. Wells, I was also talking about it. I talked about it with Danette, who's an African American journalist who's written about my projects, and so I want to do it with her. And so I asked her to speak, and I asked her if she had ideas about other people to speak. I want it to just be journalists speaking, and this is just a regular old documentary. It's just 53 minutes long. So
right.
Well, that's going to be a piece of cake, but you kind of just like with the Ralph, the biggest thing is just trying to get a space. Like if I had a space where I could really go all day, that would be awesome and give people time for more of a break in between, because when I do stuff at the Naval Historical Museum, I have like a window that I need to fit it in, unless I get money to pay to stay open later. So yeah, it was it was really complicated, and man, dealing with talent is dealing with presenters is complicated, and it's nothing against it. It's not that they're doing anything wrong,
Right.
It's just stressful. And maybe I'll get, I don't know, man, I always feel like, well, I don't know, maybe I'll get better at it, but I'm just not yet in the position of just being totally comfortable telling people what to do. So, and then I had these absolutely eminent people coming, so I don't know. So yeah, but it was awesome. So, hello, Chantel and Ascari, a couple lovely people. And Chantel spoke at the event. I really wanted to show generations, and it was cool because she's young, and Chantel is young and was inspired by Ralph Bunche. So I wanted to have somebody speaking from a younger generation. So that was very cool, and I feel like I should definitely do it again, because I just made the choice because I had such great people speaking, to not have much of a question and answer period. Right. Because you just have to think about people's attention, and you could have a totally engaging question and answer period, but then people are too tired to pay attention to the presenters. So, but yeah, it was good. And Louise Greaves was really happy. She sent me a letter, which I haven't opened yet. I get really nervous to open mail, but she was very, very moved, and we filmed it, so that'll be really nice for her to see, and it'll be great for me to see, because when you're right in the middle of doing something, you can't focus so much. So okay, I think we can get to the world now that we've talked about the United States and all of my stuff. Okay, well, big news in Ethiopia. Our friend Abiy Ahmed won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Nice, bravo.
Yeah. So, you sure will. It's going to be very, very awesome, my friend. Yeah, we can, and then I'll contact you. We want to have you on the show on this show sometimes too. Yes. So Okay, so Abiy Ahmed it's interesting because one of the things that Professor Henry was talking about was, I mean, it was extreme. Obama and Ralph Bunche getting the Nobel Prize was very different. Obama got it for his promise. He got it for inspiring people, and I don't think he should have gotten it, man. I think you should get it for something that you have done, not for inspiring people. But then, but that inspiration, it totally changed the world, and that's what somebody was talking about specific, with global experience, was talking about her experience overseas after Obama won the Nobel Prize. Yeah, I mean, there's just no question in my mind that he had a huge, I think Obama's effect on people is his greatest accomplishment. He talked about like how that Obama just had so much to deal with here in the United States with the economy and trying to get his health care passed, that he didn't become the global figure that people thought he might have become.
Right.
But he saved the economy at a price. But one of the big comparisons you can make between him and Ralph Bunche was that they were within a system and they were constricted by that, and so that's they had nobody can do whatever they want. That's the thing. You can think somebody in the most powerful job in the world can do whatever they want, but they can't.
Nope.
So, even though, people you can always bring up Trump, I suppose, but I hate when people.
He doesn't always really do. He says what he wants.
Exactly, he says what he wants. Exactly.
It doesn't always happen all the time, but
exactly. So. I really think Abiy Ahmed deserves it. He deserves it for releasing political prisoners. He deserves it for making peace with Eritrea. He deserves it for lifting the media restrictions. So yeah, he deserves it. And before this had happened, Ethiopia just hosted a New Year's celebration in Addis Ababa, the capital. It was this Thanksgiving festival for the Oromos, and that's never happened before. And as we talked about, President Ahmed is Oromo, so hopefully, that is one of the things that has helped him make the country a more peaceful place. So, and a couple of years ago, there was a lot of deaths at this festival. So that just happened, and then he won the Nobel Prize, and that's awesome. He should have won it. So, and the Nobel Prize, people certainly, fucking Henry Kissinger won the Nobel Prize. Oh, yes, and there's Tamala. Yay.
What's up, Tamala?
I know, man. We got a bunch of cool-ass ladies here tonight. So that is Ethiopia. Congratulations, Mr. Ahmed. So we're going to move over to Uganda and our friend H.E. Bobby Wine, the ghetto president. H.E. stands for His Excellency. It's kind of cool, though. I feel like that should catch on. H.E. Real catchy on his name. So Yoweri Museveni outlawed people wearing like red berets because Bobby Wine wears a red beret. They've designated it as official military clothing that could land members of the public who wear them in jail.
Oh boy!
And since Bobby Wine wears it, they're trying to get after him. And so he has been under house arrest, and he was trying to give a concert, which was canceled. So Bobi Wine, as we've said, he is a rapper and businessman from Uganda who has challenged the 93-year-old president of Uganda, and he's been jailed and tortured, and he's gone back to his country, and he announced he's running for president in 2021, and he is really from the people. He is from the Ugandan ghetto, and he has huge popular support. So, play his music and support him. I think he is extremely awesome, and I really hope he stays alive.
Oh, that's crazy. I know, just the way you said it.
Yeah.
I know. It was just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, he was under house arrest and he got away on his motorcycle. So the other thing, okay, Uganda's president is Yoweri Museveni. Oh, okay, so this was interesting. He issued a social media tax, and we've talked about that on the show before, and I recently saw a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a while, and I asked him about a friend of his, a Ugandan friend of his, and he said he hasn't heard from her for a while because of the social media tax. So that is having a real life effect on people. And this is a friend of, this is a gay friend who has been attacked by the government. So by making a tax like this, you're really cutting off people from everywhere, I mean, you're cutting off people who really need support. But I think, okay, so Yoweri Museveni has decided to do something to maybe, not look like such an asshole. So he's ordered a reprieve for street vendors. There was a recent idleness crackdown. So, because apparently you can, in Uganda, people can be arrested for idleness. I mean, they certainly have some similar stuff here. And he said, so he released people that were in jail for idleness, and he said that the law was the result of a colonial fear of Africans. So there's plenty of laws that are left over from the colonial era, and so that was a law that was used to disrespect and abuse native Ugandans. So that's nice, Miss Avani, but take away the dams, let people use their social media, and don't kill. It's like, sit your ass down, man. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Burn Dog in his 70s, and Elizabeth Warren does not seem to be in her 70s though. She's spry. she's really full of life, and also, so anyway, but when we have these people in their 90s, I mean, ruling Uganda, Jesus, that is just crazy. Another thing about Warren is I feel that there needs to be different standards, that there should be different age standards for women, because a lot of women, I mean, she's worked her whole life, but a lot of women maybe slow down their careers a little bit when their kids are young. That's what Nancy Pelosi didn't, she didn't work when her kids were young. So you talk about, some women that are sticking around, hanging on to power, have had less time to be in power than men. So yeah, EW, stick around, please. Okay, so that's what's going on in in Rwanda. Okay, and Tunisia has a new president, and Tunisia is kind of interesting because that was where the Arab Spring was set off in 2011, and it's been considered to be a successful revolution. So congratulations, Tunisia, on your new president. And okay, so the new president is named Kais Saied, and he's a retired academic, and his opponent was in jail for tax fraud, but was continuing to campaign from jail. I'm like, hey, let the voters decide, man. Campaigning from jail. Yeah. And
I'm sure there's people that voted for him.
Oh, I'm sure there was. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next thing. That's going to be the next thing here.
What, people campaigning from jail?
Yeah, we're going to have a president from prison.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next one. Watch. Just give it a couple years.
Well, I think, there's
going to be somebody campaigning for president from death row. And they're going to become president from death row.
Well, man, there's prisoners that get to get a lot of influence.
Yeah, but that would be good. I can't wait till you do the show for that one. We definitely got to make that a special show.
That means we're going to be doing the show in like 5 years.
I definitely want to see that show. I want to see your face when you have to explain that. Such and such from death row is president now. He won the presidency. I'd be cracking
come on, man, not death row. Hey, man. I mean, let it be. I mean, man, somebody that's in there for like selling drugs or something like that. Yeah, I'd be all for that, man. I don't really want murderers and rapists getting elected. We already have a rapist.
I know. Once Trump came out, I just think anything's possible now.
Well,
then I would love to see the supporters explain that. Like, why why this guy from death row, he's on death row, why should he be president? And there's going to be people having all kinds of excuses.
The reason that, again, and I do not want any murderers, but I really feel that it's great for that we need to have elected leaders who have more real world experience. Right, and prison is as real world as it gets.
Manson had a lot of fans.
I know, man, but that's just sick.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. I mean, I just wouldn't have put it past him if he was alive, that later on down the line that there would be people that would try to vote him in as president. That would be hilarious.
Because there's crazy people.
That would just be hilarious. That would just be the funniest thing. Then, if there was electorals that voted for him, dude.
There's not going to be.
Dude.
But no, I mean, somebody that, elected official, people that have done, people that have done time. There's people that have done time and then gotten out and been elected, and that's great. We need to have.
That's a little different.
Yeah, we need to. To me, that is a huge point in their favor. I mean, most people that it's so expensive to run for office, and it's so rarefied, and so many of the people making the laws don't have much life experience.
That's true.
And that's one reason I think I approve. I mean, I think it's good that for when veterans run for office.
Those are good choices.
Yeah, because they have real. Not
experience.
Shit. Come back in 20 years, Buttigieg, you smooth little fuck. I mean, I don't like him. He's smug. And let's see a woman do one tour and be a mayor in a 2-horse town and run for president. That's what pisses me off, man. And can we get rid of okay. I mean, I respect Tulsi Gabbard for having military experience, but I don't respect her politics. she's an apologist for Bashar al-Assad. But anyway, the problem with Mr. Sayed, the professor, was in an interview with a local newspaper, he accused foreign powers of encouraging homosexuality in the country. So he's very anti-gay, and he is in favor of restoring the death penalty, which has been suspended since 1994 in Tunisia. He also opposes equal inheritance for men and women. So, okay. And
equal inheritance for men and women? Like, what does that mean exactly?
That means if you now that law was changed recently to allow daughters to inherit as much as sons. It used to be that just the men would inherit everything, and that law was changed. I talked to so that women can inherit. Gotcha. Tunisia at one point was very progressive. I mean, it's still for women's rights. I mean, so, and it's okay. So the election, yeah, okay. See, God, man, they do this quick because the president. I can't believe I didn't talk more about this. The president of Tunisia died in July, so he had taken office in 2014, 3 years after the uprising. So we'll see what. Okay, well, congratulations, Tunisia. I mean, now they're just, they. So far as I know, this was a free and fair election. So that's great. I mean, there's major demonstrations right now in Egypt. They're arresting children, so that's a problem. I mean, Egypt hasn't done that well since 2011. So, okay. Oh, one more thing in Ethiopia. This is one of my very favorite topics, which is returning artifacts. Okay. So, an 18th century Ethiopian crown will finally be returned home after being hidden in Holland for 21 years. It was hidden in an Ethiopian Sirak Asfa, who went to the Netherlands in the late 1970s, discovered the crown in the suitcase of a visitor and realized it was stolen.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, that's like a movie crazy. Or something. You just find this crown. Wasn't it, man? That is okay. That's like in Black Panther, man. That's really cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So send it back, man. Send it all back. Okay. Okay, so in Morocco, there's a journalist that we have been following, Hajar Ressouni, and she's been critical of the government. She's 28 years old, and she was sentenced to 1 year in prison for having an abortion and sex outside of marriage. And so she's claimed that she didn't have an abortion. It's one of those things. It's like, well, okay, well, whether she did or not, she shouldn't be put in jail for it either way. So, man, there are some pretty brave journalists out there. I don't think there's many brave journalists in the U.S. I don't, but maybe a few. Oh wow! So there's a Ronan Farrow, the journalist that broke a lot of the Me Too stories, just wrote a book called Catch and Kill. Okay, and he's talking about, because he worked for NBC, and according to him, they wouldn't run his story, and so he took it to the New Yorker, and the New Yorker published his article. And NBC claims that they didn't run the story because he didn't have sources that were willing to go on the record. And Farrow claims that it was because they were protecting Matt Lauer, who was one of their big shot anchors who finally stepped down because of like accusations of sexual assault. Now there's somebody on record saying that he raped her. And so Lauer just issued a denial about that, and the head of NBC just sent out a statement to the entire organization, saying like, okay, we didn't run Ronan's story because he didn't have sources that would go on the record, and it didn't meet our journalistic standards. So it's like, man, I don't know. See, I tend to believe in sources like, when there's something like that, I tend to think like both sources are. I think it's rare that in situations like this that one person is telling the whole truth and the other person is telling a whole lie. I just really think that there's gotta be some overlap there, but I don't know, man. It's pretty crazy. But the book is called Catch and Kill because it's claimed that's what he claimed they were trying to do with the story, because sometimes that. Oh yeah, so he also said that NBC was being threatened by Harvey Weinstein's people not to run the story. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Report your man. If some of this, like, man, I wish. I don't know, man. I feel like hopefully people will learn. I talked about it with my brother, and I was like, okay, I just feel like it should be lessons for everybody, that everybody can learn about how, okay, like, fine, I'll put it in terms of protecting yourself. Okay, if guys feel that they're being victimized by being accused of stuff, they should learn how to protect themselves against that by, like, don't do shit, or I look at stuff that happens with women too, and I'm like, okay, there's ways that women can learn to be better at protecting themselves, basically, and that's what's got to happen, man. And that is what I believe in more than any lawsuits or anything like that, man. There's stuff we can learn. Okay, there's stuff everybody can learn.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we are going to take a little break and come back in a minute or so, in a couple minutes. And thank you so much to everybody for listening, and we'll be back shortly. And in the meantime, we're going to play a little music for our friends.